Hi, I'm Christina. So for this problem, we are given some characteristics and asked to find a polynomial that fits this description. So to do this, I'm going to be creating my own function here. So I know that they want a 0 of -4. So I know to plug in x plus 4 will have to be a piece of my function. Now how do I know that? Because if they want a 0 of -4, I know that when written like this, if I plugged this piece in, I would have -4 plus 4, which would give me 0, which is exactly what I'm looking for. Then they also tell me that the multiplicity is 2, which means I need to have this piece of information in my function twice. So I can achieve that by putting this piece to the second power. Then I move on. They also want a 0 of 3. So to achieve that, I will give myself x minus 3. The logic behind that is that if we were to plug in 3 for x here, 3 minus 3 would also give us a 0. Perfect. Once again, they're giving us a multiplicity of 2, which means that I need to have this piece of information in my function twice. And once again, I can achieve that by raising this to the second power. Now, lastly, they want me to make sure that my function has a degree of 4. Well, what does that mean? That means that if I were to expand this function, the highest exponent would have a degree of 4, which means x to the 4th power. So to verify that, I'm going to go ahead and expand this function. So let's start this over here. So now I'm going to write it out expanded. I have x plus 4 times x plus 4 times x minus 3 times x minus 3. So I'm going to go ahead and start by foiling these first two pieces. I FOIL them, I wind up with x squared. I do first, outside, inside, last. I'm going to have a plus, first outside, I do plus 4x, and the inside plus 4x, for a total of plus 8x. And then my last terms give me a plus 16. I'm going to go ahead, keep that in parentheses, and then I'm going to do the same thing, foiling this piece. First, outside, inside, last. I wind up with x squared. Outside, I have minus 3x, inside minus 3x, for a total of negative 6x plus 9 when I multiply the negative 3 times the negative 3. At this stage, we now are going to multiply these two trinomials together. The most important thing I find here is that I stay very organized. What I need to do is multiply every term of this first trinomial by every term of this second trinomial. So I will start with the first term of the first trinomial and multiply that through. X squared times x squared results in x to the 4th power. I multiply these two terms, I get minus 6x to the 3rd. I keep going the entire way through, plus 9x squared. Great. Now I move on to the second term, multiply it entirely through, resulting in plus 8x to the 3rd minus 48x squared plus 72x. Now I can move on to the last term of the first trinomial, again multiplying it through every part of the second trinomial, giving me plus 16x squared minus, and then I'll do 16 times 6. I'm going to use a calculator. 96. So minus 96x and then multiplying 16 and 9, which again, I would use a calculator. I happen to know it's 144. Great, so I have successfully multiplied every term of my first trinomial through every term of my second trinomial. Perfect. Now I need to combine like terms. So once again, organization is key so that I don't accidentally neglect or miss any of these pieces. So what I like to do is mark them as I go. So I'm going to start by combining my x to the 4th power. I'm actually going to pause here for a second to show that because we're looking to figure out the degree, I can actually see, even before I combine my like terms, that the degree of this function is indeed 4, because x to the 4th power is my highest exponent. I don't have any x to the 5th or x to the 6th. The highest exponent that I have is 4. So at this point, I actually would know that this function up here does fit all of the requirements we were given. However, we're going to proceed to combine these like terms so we have both options and both formats of the function that we have found. So I look for all my x to the 4th power. I only have this one, so that tells me my final answer. I have 1x to the 4th. Now I'm going to look for my x to the 3rds. I have minus 6x to the 3rd and a positive 8x to the 3rd. And that's it. I combine those. That gives me a positive 2x to the 3rd. I look for my x squareds. I have 9x squared, 16x squared for 25, positive 25, and a negative 48. So a negative 48 and a positive 25 gives me a negative 23x squared. And now I've got my x's. I have a positive 72 and a negative 96. So positive 72 to negative 96, giving me negative 24x. And then last but not least, just looks like the last piece left is that positive 144. So I've stayed organized by underlining. If I hadn't done that, I would definitely want to go back through and just make sure that I accounted for every piece. So then this would be our function. So again, we have successfully found a function with the characteristics that they were asked for, and we've even presented it in 2 different formats. We have this format as well as the expanded format. And that is how we do this problem.